with 60 meters to go. They're still side by side with 50. Lyles trying to find something. He stretches away. It is.
Noah Lyles just said something about a 17-year-old kid that has the racing world going crazy. The fastest man alive told everyone that this teenager is better than he ever was. At the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, something amazing happened after the men's 200-meter races. 30 reporters crowded around Australian teenager Gout Gout like he was a movie star. The air was thick and sweaty, and everyone wanted to talk to the kid who just ran in his first big race. When Noah Lyles, the reigning world champion and the man who just ran the fastest 200-meter time in the world this year, walked into that same spot minutes later, the crowd of reporters actually got smaller. That tells you everything about the buzz surrounding this Australian teenager. Gout had just finished fourth in his semifinal with a time of 20.36 seconds. He missed making the final and didn't achieve his goal of breaking the 20-second barrier, but none of that mattered when Lyles was asked about the young sprinter who's been making headlines around the world. The American Sprint King didn't hold back. "He's more talented than I was," Lyles said with a genuine laugh. This wasn't just polite encouragement from an older athlete. This was Noah Lyles, a man with 8 world championship gold medals, openly admitting that a teenager from Australia has more natural ability than he did at the same age. To understand how significant this statement is, you need to know who Noah Lyles is in the sprinting world. At 28 years old, he's considered the best 200-meter runner since Usain Bolt. He just won his 4th straight world championship in the 200 meters, joining Bolt as the only person in history to achieve that feat. He's the Paris Olympics 100-meter champion and has posted times that put him among the fastest humans who ever lived. When someone of that caliber makes such a bold statement, people listen, and the internet certainly did. But Lyles didn't stop there. He spent nearly a full minute giving a thoughtful breakdown of what he sees in Gout Gout.
I mean, there's been nothing but great talent coming up. He's an amazing kid. You know, you got a great head on him. You got a great team around him. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how he develops. You know,
what makes this even more remarkable is that these two athletes aren't strangers. They've trained together at camps organized by their mutual sponsor, Adidas. Lyles has seen Gout up close, watched him work, and understands his potential better than most. When he speaks about the Australian teenager, it comes from real experience, not just watching highlights on social media. The numbers back up Lyles' assessment. When he was 17 years old in 2015, Lyles ran 10.14 seconds in the 100 meters and 20.18 seconds in the 200 meters. Those are impressive times for any teenager. But Gout has already run faster than that, with a personal best of 20.02 seconds in the 200 meters and times in the 100 that suggest he's ahead of where Lyles was at the same age. During that post-race interview in Tokyo, Lyles shared insights that reveal his understanding of what it takes to succeed at the highest level.
To see how he develops, you know, the thing that I always look for when I'm looking at younger talent is, hey, are you just going to be able to train into shape, one? Because when you're in high school, you're able to just get like races all the time whenever you want. But as a pro, you got to race, you know, you got to come prepared already.
This is the voice of experience talking. Lyles knows the difference between high school success and professional athletics. In high school, you can show up to meets regularly and race yourself into shape. As a professional, every race matters, every training session counts. The margin for error shrinks dramatically. Lyles also addressed Gout's physical development, something that's been a talking point among athletics fans. At 17, Gout still has a lean, almost lanky frame. Just seeing how they put some weight room on him as time develops, naturally, not just like all at once, Lyles noted. He understands that rushed physical development can derail a young athlete's career. The American sprinter had particular praise for Gout's support team, especially his coach Di Shepherd. Lyles said,
"Develops, you know, naturally, not just like all at once, but you know, he got a great coach. You know, she's, you know, very, she's constantly looking to be a better coach, and she's constantly looking to be the best for him. So." You know,
in a sport where the wrong guidance can end careers before they truly begin, having the right people around you makes all the difference. What's fascinating about this entire situation is how Gout himself has handled the pressure and attention. After missing the final in Tokyo, he could have been devastated. Instead, he showed remarkable maturity.
I mean, just excitement for sure. Obviously, I was aiming for that sub 20, but today wasn't the day. God didn't allow it today, but I know for sure in the future it's going to come for sure.
That response demonstrates something special about this young athlete's mindset. He's not letting one race define him or crush his confidence. He sees the bigger picture, and that bigger picture includes something that gives him a massive advantage over his current competitors.
The biggest eye-opener is knowing that I can compete at the young age I am against the against the best men in the world. So that's been definitely the biggest eye-opener for me, and just knowing that I can actually go out there, run my heart out, and still place against these grown men. So it's definitely great. Well, I mean, to know that all these people want to hear what I want to say is definitely proud and definitely great. So I'm just going to use that as fuel to my fire for sure, and just be able to come back to you guys with even more better experiences and better times for sure.
This isn't just teenage confidence talking. This is strategic thinking. While his competitors are approaching or already in their peak years, Gout has time to develop, learn, and improve. The Brisbane 2032 Olympics, where he'll be 24 years old, looms as a perfect target for when he could be at his absolute best. The connection between Lyles and Gout goes beyond just sharing the same sponsor. Earlier this year, they trained together at a camp in Claremont, Florida, organized by Adidas. Lyles' coach, Lance Brauman, who has worked with world champions before, came away impressed. "You have a real talent there in Gout," Brauman said, "but he's young. You need to let him mature and grow, and don't put too many expectations on him while he's still so young." Another training session is already planned for the Christmas and New Year period, showing that this mentorship relationship is ongoing. For Gout, having access to Lyles' experience and knowledge could be invaluable. Gout said this about their relationship.
Everyone does their own business, but apart from Noah Lyles, he pretty much puts me under his wing, so he's a great guy, and he's the only one I pretty much need for sure.
But Lyles also provided some hard truths about what comes with being a young talent in professional athletics. That's the hardest part about being such a young talent. You have to grow up so much faster than everybody else, he explained. When people get to come to you and they're like, "Hey, we need this of you," unfortunately, you don't get to say, "I'm only a teenager." Because once you sign the contract, once you're on the track, you're no longer a teenager, you're now a businessman. This reality is already becoming clear for Gout. The media attention around him in Tokyo was intense. More than 3.2 million people watched his heat on Australian television, which was more than the audience for AFL semifinals that weekend. The 30 reporters surrounding him after his semifinal represented international media from around the world, all wanting to know about this teenage phenomenon. Managing that level of attention while still being a high school student presents unique challenges. Gout is scheduled to take his final exams in October, and his team has been careful about limiting his media exposure to protect his development. But as Lyles pointed out, once you reach a certain level, you can't hide behind your age anymore.
Not beaten yet. This is so close. McLaughlin-Levrone for history. She's driving for the line, and she's done it.
Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone was already the queen of the 400-meter hurdles, holding 6 world records and looking unbeatable. But she walked away from all that to try something that seemed impossible, breaking a 40-year-old barrier that many thought would never fall. When Sydney announced she was switching from hurdles to the flat 400 meters, the doubters came out in full force. She knew it too. After her historic race in Tokyo, she admitted, "I knew there were a lot of people doubting me with making the switch from 400 meters hurdles to the flat 400 meters. The criticism made sense. Why leave an event where you're untouchable to start over in one of track and field's most brutal races?"
How are we feeling after that? Yeah, I'm feeling great. Everyone just wanted to go in there and do their job. We weren't really going for a time. We just wanted to obviously do our parts and win the race. So it's always special to also have a chance.
The flat 400 is different from hurdles. There's nowhere to hide, no technique to master except pure speed and pain tolerance. It's too long to sprint the whole way, but too short to pace yourself. And waiting for Sydney and Tokyo was Marilady Paulino, the Olympic champion from the Dominican Republic, who had already beaten Sydney once before. That loss happened in Paris in 2023, and it stung. Sydney had led most of that race, pushing hard from the start. But the 400 is cruel to those who go out too fast. In the final stretch, when lactic acid floods your muscles and every step feels like concrete, Paulino flew past her. Sydney learned that day that talent alone wasn't enough. She needed a different approach, so she went back to the drawing board with her coach, Bobby Kersey. This wasn't just any coach. This was the mastermind who had already turned Sydney into the greatest female hurdler in history. Kersey put her through brutal training sessions with former UCLA runner Willington Wright. The goal was simple but terrifying. Break the 48-second barrier that no woman had touched in 4 decades. Only one person had ever run faster than 48 seconds. Marita Koch from East Germany, who clocked 47.60 back in 1985. But that record came with a shadow. Koch ran during the height of East Germany's systematic doping program, making her time both impressive and suspicious. For 40 years, that mark stood alone, seemingly untouchable. Sydney's journey back to the flat 400 wasn't smooth. She first tried the event in 2023, but injuries ruined her world championship plans. She returned to hurdles in 2024, winning her second Olympic gold and setting another world record of 50.37 seconds in Paris. But the flat 400 kept calling her back. In 2025, she finally committed. The track world watched nervously as one of its biggest stars took an enormous risk. What if she wasn't fast enough? What if years of hurdle training had changed her running style too much? What if she lost in both events? The first sign that something special was brewing came in the semifinals in Tokyo. Sydney broke the 19-year-old American record with a time of 48.29 seconds, destroying Sonia Richards-Ross's old mark. But even after that performance, she said she still had something left in the tank. The track world held its breath. Race day arrived with Tokyo's typical humidity, but then evening rain cooled things down and made the track slick. The same Japan National Stadium where Sydney had set her first hurdles world record in 2021 was about to witness something equally historic. Sydney got lane 5 while Paulino was stuck in lane 9, the outside lane where she couldn't see her competition. Paulino later explained how tough that was. Lane 9 did not help me much as I ran without any visual reference. But Sydney had her own challenges. This wasn't her natural event, and the pressure was enormous. When the gun fired, Sydney moved well early but didn't blast out like some flat 400 runners do. She had learned from that painful loss in Paris. Patience would be key. Through the first 200 meters, she was in good position, but not dominating. Coming around the final turn, Sydney looked smooth and controlled. She had a slight lead, but this is where the 400 gets nasty. This is where dreams die and legends are born. Behind her, Paulino was charging hard, using every ounce of her Olympic champion experience. Into the home stretch, the two women were locked in an epic battle. For Sydney, this was uncharted territory. Her recent hurdles races had been solo time trials against the clock. She hadn't been in a real fight like this in years, but instead of tightening up, she seemed to relax and let her speed flow. With 30 meters to go, Sydney opened up a gap of about 4 body lengths. But Paulino wasn't done. The Olympic champion was actually gaining ground, her form getting raggedy, but her determination absolute. Both women lunged at the line in one of the most dramatic finishes in 400-meter history. When the times flashed on the scoreboard, the crowd erupted. Sydney had clocked 47.78 seconds, the second fastest time in history and the fastest in 40 years. But the real shocker was Paulino's 47.98. For the first time ever, 2 women had broken 48 seconds in the same race. Sydney's reaction said everything. She looked at the clock and put her hands on her head in complete shock. Even she couldn't believe what had just happened. "You don't run something like that without amazing women pushing you to it," she said afterward, giving credit to Paulino for making both of them reach new heights. Coach Bobby Kersey had predicted this moment. Before the race, he told reporters, "I felt that somebody was going to have to run 47-something to win this." He had trained Sydney for exactly this scenario, knowing that Paulino wouldn't go down without a fight. But Paulino wasn't devastated by the loss. Despite missing gold, she was thrilled to be part of history. "I'm thankful for having the opportunity to break 48, she said. "I still feel like a winner. I've spent 5 years every day training for this." Her attitude showed the respect these athletes have for pushing each other to greatness. The bronze medal went to Salwa Eid Nasser of Bahrain in 48.19, a time that would have won the previous 2 world championships. The depth of talent in this race was incredible. Nasser, who had also beaten Sydney before, made a bold prediction after the race. "I think that very soon, the women's 400-meter world record will be broken." That statement carried weight. This was someone who knew Sydney's talent firsthand, and if she thought the world record was in danger, people listened. Koch's 47.60 suddenly didn't seem so safe anymore. But Sydney wasn't done making history in Tokyo. 3 days later, she lined up for the 4x400-meter relay as the anchor for Team USA. The relay is different from individual races. It's about trust, timing, and delivering when your teammates need you most. The American team for the relay was completely fresh: Isabella Whitaker, Lynna Irby-Jackson, Aaliyah Butler, and Sydney. None of them had run in the preliminary round, a bold strategy that showed complete confidence in their ability. From the first handoff, the Americans were in control. Whitaker ran 50.12 to give them a good start. Then, Irby-Jackson took over and absolutely blazed her leg in 48.71, opening up a lead of more than 10 meters. By the time Butler finished her 49.96 split, the race was basically over. When Sydney got the baton for the anchor leg, she was so far ahead it felt like a victory lap. But she didn't coast. True to form, she ran a blistering 47.82 split, just 400 slower than her individual race. The team time of 3 minutes 16.61 seconds was a championship record, beating the mark the USA had set way back in 1993. Sydney's teammates were amazed by her anchor leg. Irby-Jackson said, "To just be able to bring the gold medal home, being part of the legacy of the USA's women's 4x400-meter relay is incredible." But for Sydney, it felt natural. "My last lap felt like a victory lap for us. I just wanted to finish strong because you never know who is behind chasing you." Jamaica took silver in 3 minutes 19.25 seconds, while the Netherlands grabbed bronze in 3 minutes 20.18 seconds. The Dutch team was anchored by Femke Bol, Sydney's biggest rival in the hurdles. Bol had hoped to chase down Sydney in the final leg, but the gap was just too big. Still, Bol was happy with bronze, adding to her gold in the 400 hurdles and silver in the mixed relay. For Sydney, winning 2 golds in Tokyo proved that her risky switch was worth it. She had silenced the doubters and rewritten the history books.
For history, she's driving for the line, and she's done it! 47.80!
Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone had just done something no woman had done in 40 years, run faster than 48 seconds in the 400 meters. But as she walked onto the wet track in Tokyo, everyone wondered, could she do something even more amazing? She was about to run in the women's 4x400-meter relay final on the last day of the World Championships. What happened next made every other runner wonder if they were even in the same race. McLaughlin-Levrone had already made headlines earlier that week by running 47.78 seconds in the individual 400 meters. That's the second fastest time in history, behind only a 40-year-old record from East Germany that many people question. She had switched from her usual 400-meter hurdles event, where she already owned 6 of the 10 fastest times ever recorded, to try something new. Many people doubted this decision. She proved them all wrong in spectacular fashion. But the relay was supposed to be different. This was a team event where individual brilliance had to blend with perfect teamwork. Other countries had strong teams too. Jamaica had speed. The Netherlands had Femke Bol, the 400-meter hurdles world champion known for her lightning-fast finishing kicks. This wasn't going to be a one-woman show, or so everyone thought. Team USA made a bold choice for the final. They completely changed their lineup from the qualifying rounds. None of the 4 women who would run in the final had even competed in the earlier heats. Isabella Whitaker would start things off. Lynna Irby-Jackson would take the second leg. Aaliyah Butler would handle the third. And McLaughlin-Levrone would bring it home on the anchor leg. This fresh leg strategy was risky. Relay teams usually stick with runners who have already proven they can handle the pressure and execute clean handoffs under championship conditions. But USA's coaches had a different plan in mind. From the very first step, it was clear this wasn't going to be a normal race. Whitaker burst out of the blocks and immediately took control of the first 400 meters. Her split time of 50.12 seconds put USA ahead right from the start. She handed the baton to Irby-Jackson in first place. But what happened next was where things got really interesting. Irby-Jackson took that baton and absolutely destroyed the field on the second leg. She ran 48.71 seconds, which was faster than what most individual 400-meter runners can manage in a standalone race. By the time she reached the halfway point of the relay,